Blessed love and peace. I have a little bit further energy just from a minute ago, and kind of just endeavoring to summarize and just briefly articulate what I was getting to in terms of like the notions of signs of ownership. I was talking about brands, tattoos, and those literally just facts being symbols of being owned by something else. That's facts, regardless of what the actual explanation is, the surface level of it, whatever. It's being owned by something else. It doesn't necessarily have to be outright, absolute, 100% owned by something else. It could be 50%, could be 60, could be 20% or otherwise. But to just be honest and recognize that that's what it is. And sometimes the rationale and the explanation is like a sense of belonging. Now we're all part of the same crew. We all have the same mark on ourselves. It's still being owned by an entity, even beyond that organization. Particularly when kids and folk have yet to do further research about like the origins, not even just of the organization, but particularly of that methodology of demarcation, of being marked by a sign from something else. And there are other symbols, there are other signatures of being owned. When people do brand labels on clothing, vehicles, and additionally, and get some sense of self from that, get valued because of that. Oh, they're wearing this, and are known for that. They're being owned. It's not them. They didn't make those boots or the footwear. It's not of their own works. And additionally, it comes from something else. And when people are impressed by that, when people have a greater perception of somebody's value because of the things that they're wearing, that person is being owned by those things. Again, it might be 20%, it might be 20%, it might be 30%. But it's beneficial to recognize that. That's another methodology of being owned by rocking brand labels, designer labels. Again, car, conspicuous consumption, being known for this, being included in groups and in communities, in cliques and otherwise, based upon these things. That becomes attachments, that becomes dependencies on a phenomenon beyond oneself, on phenomena beyond usually what is healthy, beyond what a person individually controls. And that is wrestling. Because when following the trail of where those things originate from further, the near points of origin, everything comes from the Most High God. But the perhaps increasingly proximate point of origin is the malevolence, insecurity, greed, hatred, delusion, and otherwise. Designer brand labels manufactured in sweatshops that are exploiting people, extracting natural elements, fibers, plants, minerals in a way that causes severe pollution, poisons water, impairs and cripples villages and further. But the people who are rocking it are getting invited to the clubs and the parties and the job interviews and opportunities and otherwise. And being further owned. Because everything a person gains by doing these things, the further a person is being owned. Because in order to be liberated from that ownership, a person has to let all those trappings, all the rewards go. All the things that, all the doors that opened up, all the jobs that are offered, all the women that arrive and provide loyalties based upon these trappings, all that one has to let go. Doesn't mean that it just goes away, whatever, because if it's true, or when there is a proficient amount of truth in that, if it's a woman, she's like, well, you know what? That designer thing wasn't that deep, anyways. Beauty. Now there's a stronger relationship right there. But oftentimes it's a matter of like, oh, you're not going to do this? Well, then, blah, blah, blah. So, but that's part of the cost of liberation. That's part of the truth of liberation and the nature. So, again, they're all different types of symbols of ownership, from the tattoos and hits, brands, to the designer labels, to even, even CV credentials, job affiliations, school affiliations, organizational affiliations, and additionally, I'm not going to get too much on this trope, but it's beneficial to recognize this, and I'm going to leave it at that. Just there's a lot of different types of ownership, and that ownership at the other end of the chains, at the other end of the reins, is temptation, delusion, hostility, fear, insecurity, manipulation, selfishness, ignorance, confusion, drunkenness, sloth, and all that stuff. So, we're going to keep it at that. And we continue. We give all thanks and praise to the Most High Elohim, blessed love and peace in Rastafari.